Good evening, all. Today's topic is about Servlet. So actual concept which we are going to use to develop web applications. Before the servlets, please recall web pages, website, and web application, and HTTP protocol, and the bits which we have discussed in HTTP protocol. Okay, so once you just go through it. Okay, so let's start in our session, right? Servlet. Servlet is a server-side component, or we can say it's a web component. Okay, even for servlets, we can also call it as a web component. Okay, so yes, servlets are web components which are mainly used for creating web applications. So even we can include it as web pages, especially dynamic web pages. Okay, so when we talk about servlets, there are different features and different advantages. Okay, so the main concept concept is about creating web applications, so especially dynamic web applications. So what are the benefits by using these servlets? And one more thing, so these servlets, servlets uses Java to develop dynamic web applications. And yes, it provides better performance. So why it is better performance? It is it's based on thread. Okay, so I hope you people might have heard about thread concepts. So let me note. One second. Okay, so here prerequisites. Okay, prerequisites for this. So we need to aware of Java language. Yes, that's okay. And yes, HTML. Yes, we need it, but already we have discussed. Okay, if needed, we can include CSS as well. Okay, and anyhow, we have already I'm using Eclipse. I hope you people are using the software or IDE which you are comfortable, and server. Okay, Tomcat server. So we in case if you want to develop or if you want to deploy applications, definitely web web applications, we must need it this Tomcat server. Okay, and MySQL, it's optional. Okay, but still, if you want to connect your application with a database, then you needed either MySQL or Oracle, anything, and so on. Anything which you needed, you can install. Okay, fine. So, but yes, prerequisites as Java language is must, and right, and Tomcat server is must. And after installing your Tomcat server, you might find lots of issues with this Tomcat server. Okay, lots of issues in the sense related to the port number. That's it. So we can correct it by different ways. Okay, so now let's start with servlets. So yes, servlet is a server-side component. So here is an architecture. Okay, so here is an architecture, and in this architecture, okay, so when the client sends a request, okay, when client sends a request, That's in the form of login page. So when the user clicks on login after entering data, okay, after entering data, when the user, performs some action, then it will be redirected to the web server. Okay, in web server, there is an, file system. And if the, requested or, the request sent by client, if the file is present in a file system, that response will be given back to, you know, client. Suppose, if there is no file in file system, so that's what it says, that if resource not found in file system, so what happens? So in such cases, that request will be redirected to web container. So we have a concept of web container. We'll discuss that. Okay. So now, the request will be searches, the container in a web container. Okay, it processes the request and performs the required actions, and if needed, in case that contains server-side program, if needed, it performs this it takes required action. And in case if that needs to, if that request needs to access the data, so then, there will be communication with a database. So the one which we have discussed, JDBC, we have so many, so 1 minute. Okay. We have so many, what is it? Yeah. Databases. Yes. We can use any one of that. Okay. So in case if the request after performing, server side programming validation, it may need to access data from the database. Okay. Nowadays, always every application uses database, right? For what? To store the data, right? And yes, after, requesting data or accessing data from the database, again, that request may forward it to client. So here, not mentioned. So let's see here, this web container, it will be redirected to, 1 second. Yes, it will be redirected to, this, let me say, as a web, client. Okay, so this is how interaction between the client and, web container, or you can say web server. Okay. Right. 1 second. Right. So we have web container and server side program. Right. So basically, who is responsible for performing all these things? That is web server. So we must have, any one server if you want to deploy your application on Servlet or server. Hope it's clear about this, architecture. Always, it finds whenever as a user interacts with the application, of course, we give request, and that request will be just in a file system. If the file is not found in the file system, that request will be forwarded to web server. Okay, so there we will be having web container, who's taking care of this request processing. And yes, depending on the request, it is sent by a client, so it gets processed. And of course, it may need to, communicate with the server, right? So to perform a specific logic, and then if in case if needs to access data from the database, it communicates with the database and it gets the data from it, and that response will be sent back to the client. So this is the, dynamic web application interaction. Hope it's clear. Right. So now we'll move to, actual concept of web application. Not web application, server, servlet. Okay, let's get into this. Right, so Servlet is a server-side component which is used for creating web applications, and of course it extends the functionality of server, and of course it's based on Java language. So even we can say it's built on top of Java, or we develop this server-side applications with the help of Java language. So without Java language, definitely we cannot achieve anything. Okay, right. So here itself, let me talk about few more points. Right. So what are the benefits? As I discussed. So what are the benefits, or we can say advantages of servlets? Can anyone? Okay. Fine. So we can give actually, before advantages, we can give many features. Okay, so features. Features of, servlets. So we can give many features for servlets. So why? Because it's based on Java. So whatever the features we have with Java, all those features can be given for servlets as well. Okay, so what is it? What are the benefits or features of Java programming? So that is, first of all, it is object-oriented programming language. Even servlets are object-oriented programming languages, and Java is platform independent. Hope you guys are aware about platform independent, and also it's a portal, and it's a secured, and it's for it's used for developing distributed applications. And yes, or does it secured is done? So even we can say it is a robust language, right? So even servlets are it provides a robust, because JVM, Java Virtual Machine, it manages the servlets, and we don't need to bother, we don't need to worry about the memory leakages. Okay, so that's a one benefit by using this servlets. Okay, so apart from that, we can say portable is done platform. It's a secure, robust, and interpreter based, as well as a compiler based, etc. Okay, so and here I'll mention it as an and so on. Okay, and we talk about advantages. Of course, there are many different advantages or the benefits. So what are those? It provides better performance. Okay, better performance. So why it's a better performance? Because the servlets creates a thread for each. Okay, thread for each servlet. Okay, creates thread for each. Hope you guys are heard about aware about threads. Thread is just an execution task or execution process, we can say. Okay, and even we can say it's a portability. So in Java, Java request, sorry, portability. Yes, why it is a portability? It provides a portable because it's based on Java. Then definitely, all these features which is done here, uh, these are the features of Java actually. And why I have written here? Because servlets uses Java programming, so all those Java features are applicable, or the used for this, or applicable for this servlets as well. Okay, right. So for each request, let me write here request. Okay, so next one is about portability. Okay, so why it's a portability? Because it's based on because it's based on Java language. Okay, so then even it's a robust language, so let's robust because JVM. So Java virtual machine, it manages. Java virtual machine manages. And here, as a developer, okay, I'm just giving it as a developer itself. Okay, as developer, no need of bothering about memory leakages. No need to worry about, let me write here, memory leakages. Okay, so then because it's secured because of Java language. Okay, so let me write, I'm taking this statement, and yes, of course, distributed. Why it's a distributed? Because we can develop distributed applications, or we can say web applications. So or used for developing distributed applications. Okay, so this is about distributed. Okay, so these are few advantages, or we can say benefits of an servlets. Hope it's clear. And please do recall some few terminologies which we have already discussed. Required terminology to be revised, because we have already discussed that's about a website. So in website we have a static, and and we have dynamic, and also we have discussed HTTP protocol and its methods, right? If you want, you guys can refer previous videos, right? And yes, along with this website, web application as well. Web application. Okay. So now it's about few more new terminologies which we are going to discuss. So here it's along with this web application, let's say so web applications are used to manage the network. Okay, so network resources, right? And also for running the programs or software on provided services, or we can say it's on any servers. Okay, so that's about web application. And we have more new terminology called container. So what is a container? Can anyone answer? Container. Container or web container, we can say. So you people have observed in dynamic, web architecture. So whenever request forwarded from file system to the web server, first of all, web container comes to the picture because so it's responsible. Okay, so right. So basically, containers used in Java for dynamically generating web pages, on the server side. So generating web pages on server side. So that's a main requirement of this container. Okay, let me write that. Container used in Java applications, Java for dynamically generate web pages. Okay, web pages on the server side. Okay, so this is about container, or we can say web container as well. Okay, so one more terminology which needs to be remembered, that is content type. Content type. So please observe while writing, you people should not feel any difficulty. Okay, right. So what is web, content type? Content type is basically used for, used for setting. Okay, setting the outcome to a user. Okay, so outcome in the sense, the response which is given in the form of HTML page or maybe text format, right, or XML format, so on. Okay, so to set that type, to set that view type, we can use this content type. It's basically a method. Okay, so right, we can say it's a HTTP header. Okay, HTTP header, uh, this HTTP header, it provides a description about, what you are going to send to the browser or the user. Okay, so content type, it is HTTP header, and and that processes, and it provides, okay, it provides the description, description about what exactly here I can say. So description about what we, what we need to send to the browser, or we can say user, or also we can say it as a client. Okay, so the final, output, what in which format you wanted to display, so that one we can say it as a content type. Okay, so this is about content type. Hope it's clear. So next topic is about Servlet API. So what is API? Yes, what is API? I hope you people are, aware about Java programming. No one responded. Okay, it's fine. So go ahead. Servlet API. API stands for Application Programming Interface. Application Programming Interface, right? Okay. So if we want to develop any dynamic web pages by using, uh, application interface, cross-site data request approval. Okay, right. So it stands for Application Programming Interface. Basically, API is, application programming interface. So then what is the requirement? What is the, actual purpose of this API? So basically, these APIs, it's not only specific I'm talking, so it's in general. So basically APIs provides, reusable components. Okay. Let's write, APIs provides reusable components. Okay. Reusable components. So what are those reusable components? Those are, classes and interfaces. Okay, so this is about, the need of APIs. And now we are in, Servlet API. So here, this Servlet, basically there are two types in Servlet API. One is, Java X dot Servlet dot star. So this is one API. Another one is Java X dot Servlet dot HTTP dot star. So what is the difference? When we talk about HTTP, so this HTTP is specific protocol dependent. So here, it's specific to HTTP protocol. Okay, so suppose if it is Java X servlet, so this is a generic servlet, generic API we can say. It's a, we can say as an generic, because it's not going to be, it's not depending on any specific protocols. So it's a generic protocol. It supports all the protocols. Okay, so it's a generic and it supports all protocol. It provides, instead of support, I can write here, I can write here as a provides. It provides all protocol services. So what is this all? This all is about, HTTP or FTP, FMTP, and so on. Okay. It's clear, the differences between Java X Servlets and Java X HTTP, Java X Servlet HTTP protocol. Okay. Fine. So now let's move to each one of them. We'll discuss in depth. So yes, you all see here Java X and Java X with HTTP packages, or these APIs represent interfaces and classes for Servlet API. And yes, of course, Java X Servlet package, it contains many interfaces and classes that are used by servlets or web containers. And these are not specific to any protocols. But if it is an HTTP, so it's a specific to HTTP protocol only. So now we'll see, the interfaces which are present in each of the API. Right. So hope you people can see, these are the interfaces which are present in a Java ExcelR API or package. So what are those? We have an interface called Servlet interface. We have Servlet request and Servlet response, Servlet, request dispatcher, Servlet config, Servlet context, and so on we have. So each interface will be having its own usage. We'll see, those later. But for now, just revise what are all the interfaces and classes we have in each, API. Right. So these are the classes which are present in a Java X Servlet package. So we have generic servlet and we have servlet input, stream, and servlet output stream, request wrappers, and you all can see, right? So we have many more, classes in this Java X package. And now we'll see the interfaces which are present in a Servlet HTTP package. So please observe, these are important actually. So HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, and HTTP session. So this is very important. And HTTP session listener and attribute listener, binding listener. So mainly we will be discussing on the top 4. HTTP, servlet request, respond, and session. Okay, session listener. And please observe the classes which are there in this HTTP API. Servlet HTTP API. So we have HTTP servlet class, and cookie we have it's a class, and HTTP servlet request wrapper, response wrapper, and HTTP session event, and HTTP session binding event. So these are the different classes which are present in a Servlet API, Servlet HTTP package. Okay. Right. So now we'll discuss, Servlet Lifecycle. It's very important. Okay. Servlet Lifecycle, even it's, for interview point of view also. So you might get questions, many questions on, what is Servlets and what are the different APIs we have, or you may get question as in what is API or what is Servlet API, and, what is web container and what is web server, right? Fine. So the next, topic is about Servlet Lifecycle. Before moving to Servlet Lifecycle, let's discuss about, Servlet Hierarchy. Actually, I have not included in this. So Servlet Hierarchy. Let me note it in, Notepad. Servlet Hierarchy. Okay, so in the Servlet hierarchy, Servlet is the topmost interface. Servlet topmost interface. Okay, so it's a topmost interface and it provides a few common, features. Okay, so we'll come to know when we discuss, life cycle. Fine, and from this servlet, if it is a servlet, if we wants to acquire properties from interface to class, obviously we use an implements keyword, right? And here we have a concept of, generic servlet. generic servlet, as the name indicate, as name indicates, it's a generic, it's a common, or it provides, support for or services for all, all kind of protocols. That's what, the one which I have, first API is about. Right. So this generic servlet, which can be implemented this, servlet interface. Okay, so let me note, few pictures here. So what is it? Okay, so it's not specific to any protocol. Fine, so then we have, right, so we have one more, that is HTTP protocol. Okay, this, I'm sorry, this is not protocol, it's a servlet. HTTP servlet. Okay. HTTP servlet is also classlet. It's a class. Okay, so it's not specific to any protocol, which means it provides services for kind of protocol. But here we have HTTP as name suggests, as name suggesting, so it will be supporting or providing services only for the HTTP protocol. And yes, of course, even HTTP servlet is a class. It's a class. It's a class, and it's built on top of generic servlet. Okay, so this is about HTTP servlet, and it's specific. It provides services for a specific protocol, that is HTTP protocol. Okay. It is okay. It is supported to a specific protocol. Especially, I'll mention here, that is HTTP. Okay. So this is about the hierarchy. Servlet hierarchy. So on top, it's not on top. Servlet is Servlet interface is a topmost interface in Servlet hierarchy, and from this, we have derived a class called generic servlet. And as name suggests, this generic servlet will be supported for any kind of servlets. Protocols. Okay, it can be HTTP, FTP, FMP, and there are many more protocols, right? So all those protocols, services will be provided by this generic servlet. But if we talk about generic servlet, HTTP servlet, this in class is only specific to HTTP protocol. Okay. Right. So now we'll discuss about, the life cycle of servlets. Okay. So what is the meaning of life cycle? Can someone? What is life cycle in general. No one is responding. One minute. If we talk about, life cycle, so life cycle is, you can say it is a kind of stages when we talk about any object in the world, right? So if it is in human beings, of course, even for human beings in life cycle, right? So there's a step or birth, right? After birth till death. So there will be different activities which are, countless, right? And same way for any programming language or for any object, each object will be having its own life cycle. So in that, of course, even Servlet is also, we have, Servlet also having life cycle. So Servlet is actually a class. Okay, so it's a class. Okay, so if it is a class, definitely, in the step one, so the classes needs to be loaded to the virtual machine, JVM, right? After loading, yes, it gets instantiated. First, it get compiled. After compilation, sorry, not compilation. After loading, it gets instantiated and initialization, and then it goes to service, and then it provides a, sorry, it goes to a destroy. Okay, so basically we have, 5 steps. Okay, so those are Servlet class loaded and Servlet instance is created, then it calls the method called init method. This is for the initialization. Okay, so it's an initialization of Servlet class. After initialization, then of course, service. So as I said, as compared with the human beings after birth, till death, so there will be different activities, right? So in the same way, so here we have a service method where it provides the actual, implementation of that, Servlet. Okay, so here when we talk about, each method, specifically third, fourth, and fifth steps. So init method is invoked. So here we have a method called init method, and we have a service method, and then destroy method. Remember, whenever Solid gets instantiated, init method, init method will be called once per life cycle. Obviously, even for the human beings, then born will be only once, right? But as I said, activities there are countless. But even destroy, that is also once. Right now, same way here for Servlet as well. So init method will be invoked only once in the life cycle, but services, service method can be called any number of time. It depends on the requirement. And the destroy method is invoked when after the completion of the service method. Okay, so once it completes, all the services which is provided in that, then obviously it goes to call the destroy method. Okay, to destroy served instance. That's what is, explanation here, right? So load served class, which means, we have a concept of class loader, basically, which is responsible for loading compiled code or compiled classes. Okay, right? So the class loader is responsible to load the Servlet class, and these, Servlet class is loaded when the first request for the Servlet is received by a container. when the first request is received by web container. And then we have solid instance creation. So when the web container creates the instance of solid after loading solid class, so obviously this solid instance is created only once in a life cycle. So and then we have a method called init method is invoked when, so when the web container calls the init method only once. And of course, this init method is basically used for initializing Servlet. And right, so you please observe here in this init method. Okay, so inside init method, we are passing, so we can pass just a second. Right, so we can pass, the argument. Okay, so argument called Servlet config. Uh, it's actually a class. Okay, Servlet config. Sorry, it's an interface. Right, so then after instantiation, then service method. So basically service method will be called by web container to just provide the service. So as I said, it can be called many times, but each time when request for the when Servlet gets a request. And yes, we have one more, that is please observe here we have another service method. And inside this service method, yes, of course, we can have Servlet request and Servlet responses. So these are the interfaces again. And we have one more, that is the last method, that is destroy method. Okay, destroy method will be invoked by web container when, so when there is no task, when there is no task for the service method. Once it completes, once if it completes its task, obviously we will not find any work. So obviously that particular object has to be removed from the memory. So for that we can call this destroy method. Right, so basically this method gives the servlet, it's a kind of opportunity to clean up the resource. Okay, specifically it's about memory. Whatever the memory is allocated for an object, that memory is going to be deallocated. So that is about Servlet Lifecycle. Any queries in this? Please respond if any queries. Okay, so now we'll see one simple example for Servlet interface and for generic Servlet and for HTTP Servlet as well by invoking its methods. So actually I didn't provide the differences for HTTP and for the generic Servlet lifecycle. When I talk about generic Servlet lifecycle, Servlet lifecycle, it provides some methods called we have many more methods, but I'm giving the main differences. So we have init method, we can pass the components as well, and we have mainly service method. Okay, so here Servlet request and response can be passed here, argument 1 comma argument 2, and then we can have destroy. Okay, so and even here inside with this method we have get Servlet info method. Basically it's for returning Servlet instance sorry, initialization properties. But yes, for showing life cycle, basically I'll override these three methods. And here when we talk about HTTP Servlet, here of course init method, service method, and we do have destroy method, but I'll give it later. So for now, along with the services, we have do get, and here we must pass request and response objects. So hope you people have revised the revised that web application concepts. So basically, get and post. If any request needs to be handled, obviously no get and post methods will be used. Okay, so do get and do post. Okay, so these are the two methods, and do get, do post, and is of course destroy method. So here we just have a service, but here in HTTP Servlet we have do get as well as do post. Okay, so this about the life cycle differences. Now we'll see one simple example for Servlet interface and Servlet and for the HTTP Servlet. So now let's go to our Eclipse. Any queries so far? Okay. So now let's see how to create web application. So especially what kind of application it is, dynamic web application. So click on file, select file, and select new. Under new we can have dynamic web page, web project. Basically it will not show here. Suppose if you are a beginner, I mean first user of Eclipse, so in such cases you can move to other. Here you can type dynamic web project. So select it here by clicking on next, and here let me write sample Servlet activity. Okay, so the rest of the things, of course, it uses dynamic dynamic web module version is 3.0 for the latest Eclipse, Eclipses of 3.1, or else 2.5 will be. Okay, so then let's go to the next, and here is SRC. Yes, fine. So now please observe the root context to root. The name of the root application is Servlet activity, and where this content will be placed, so that will be inside web content folder. Okay, and inside this web content folder we needed to generate. So basically we can create this deployment descriptor explicitly, but instead of that better to enable this option while creating project. Okay, so I enabled this, and let me click on finish. Click on okay or yes. Hope you all can see here now my Servlet activity is created, and we have deployment descriptor deployment descriptor related to this project activity, as content parameters, error pages, filters, etc. But so main focus is related to two folders. That is, one is Java resources, where you create your Servlet classes, and we have the content So where we'll be having two subfolders, is meta-inf and web-inf. So we are not going to touch meta-inf. We will be concentrating on web-inf. So in case, suppose sometimes our Eclipse may, our project may not work. In such cases, you can copy and paste your libraries inside this lib folder. Okay. And now we'll discuss about web.xml, or we can say deployment descriptor. Okay, so now let me create one simple Servlet. So first of all, let me create a package. So package name com dot. So let me give ExcelR dot. Servlet. Okay, fine. Activity I'm doing. And now let me click on new, and here I selected package, and again right click on the package, and selecting as Servlet, not a class. So we will be having an option called Servlet. Suppose you're not finding this Servlet here, you can go to others and you can search it. Okay, so what I have here, Servlet, let me create. And of course, project name is Servlet activity, and source folder. So where we will be having our our sources, whatever I'm creating, that will be placed inside this HRC folder. And this is a package which is already given, and it's asking us to give a class name. Okay. Here, in this wizard, please observe the name of the solid class and description. I'm not going to provide, and we don't have initialization parameters as well, but we have concept of URL mappings. Okay, so this is important, but yes, for now let's move ahead. So click on next, and let me deselect this. There's all methods. Okay, so click on finish. So basically it generates from HTTP servers. So let me resize. So this is actually, an example for servlet interface. Okay, servlet interface. Then we will, we can have generic servlet and for the, HTTP servlet. Okay, so now let's see. So actually, it's giving compilation error. Please observe this error. So what it says that it says to remove unused imports. Okay, so this is the one, and one more. It is again, it says the create, new servlet or change servant, or change server socket, and so on. It's actually giving, many, solutions, quick solutions. Okay, but let me go. In case if we, as I discussed, if we want to work with this servlets, we must include, we must add few, or jar files to a web application. Okay, please observe. I'm gonna add, servlet jar where we have all these reusable components. Okay, right. So please, right click on the project and select build path. So this is for adding. This is for adding jar files. Okay, and here please observe we have an library folder. So in this wizard, now we can select it as an add external jars. And here we can search it for servlet. Right, so here I can find this servlet jar. So now click on OK. So hope you guys can see here. Why it's not taking. Yes, it's an implements. Okay, so when I implemented from the servlet, so you guys can observe immediately the class is giving, error. So what is that error? Please observe. It says that add unimplemented methods. So this solid interface is having unimplemented methods. Please observe. We have desktop method. We have get, servlet info config, set config, and servlet info, and init and service. So these are methods which are present in this servlet. So whenever we implement those predefined, interfaces or classes, immediately that respective class gives, compiler error when we are not implementing. Okay, so compulsorily we have to implement all the methods which are present in that particular interface. So now click on add unimplemented methods. I'm not going to write anything. I just wanted to show you all, what are all the methods we have. So we have destroy, we have servlet config where we get, our configuration related to the servlet. Okay, and we have, get servlet information. Let me write a description of each method, and basically, this method used for destroying what? Servlet after service. Okay, so this is about destroy. So basically you can write something here. I'm just writing system.out.println. So this is the method. Okay, so this is a method in Java where we, where we used to print some data to the console. So I'm writing here as an call try method. So basically, basically this method, whatever, of course, internally it calls, but the which we return, it will not print in the console. it gets updated in the latest versions. Okay, so then we have servlet config, you know, uh, it returns, this method returns what? Servlet configuration information. Okay, and then we have one more method that is this is for returning servlet information. Okay, like name and what are the parameters it's have, etc. Okay, string. So this will be returned in the form of string. Returns servlet information. Okay, so next we have init method. So this is for the initialization. So initialization is done. Now it's about service method. So basically, this method is used to provide service. Okay, and uh, this method is called. It's not is called. Method can call many times. Okay, right. It's like, either you can print data to the browser or you can print it to console. So here I'm writing it as an, providing service. Okay, so these are the, methods. It's not few. Here we have 5 methods. So here again, I know we can write initializing. Initializing once. Okay, so this is for, what to say? So it's just for printing data to the console. Okay, so now I can deploy this. So for deploying, right click on that same editor, or you have a run button here. You can go and run this. But yes, right click on this editor now, run as, and run on server. Okay, so here we have, we have to select the server. And basically here I'm using Apache Tomcat server with the version 8.0. And I have to select, the path. Okay, so now let's go to this and here. So select the path where you have your Apache and click on OK. Hope it should work, without any issues. Okay, so it'll take, few seconds to get or to refresh the server with its, adapter list. Taking so much time. Meanwhile, if any questions, please drop a message in chat window. Um, how much percentage it is? So meanwhile, as I said, message in chat window. It's taking actually, it'll take hardly a few seconds. Actually, it will not take this much time. I don't know why it's taking. Uh, Okay, so there is only one adapter list. In case if not done, I'll try to change my workspace and then I'll just move on. Anyhow, so it's saying that 404 is started. So let me check in the console. It's printed or not. No. Where it's going wrong. So now I'll remove this, HTML preview because I don't need this. Okay. So now actually I have to start this. It started. Okay, nothing is printed here. Let's see. Let me check this Servlet demo. Let me enter. So for this, of course, so basically this is how we try to print data to the console. But now let me try to print data to the browser. Let's see. Um, so which method can be good? So let me call this init method first. Okay, so init method, and in this init method, so first of all, so let me initialize, okay? Let me initialize Servlet config as a null here. Okay, so here Servlet config and config equals to null. So I just initialize, and but I'm not assigned any memory here. Okay, and now so let me call, instead of this console, let me call. I don't, you people might get confused now. So this dot config equals to config. Instead of config, let me pass this, arg0. So actually, in a proper meaning, so here we can replace this arg0 with a config. Okay. And then, so let me write this, system with the initializing and the service method. Now please observe, we will try print some data to the browser. Okay, so please observe the logic. Okay, so here we have service method as a servlet request and response. And now, so here again, I know it throws exception. Okay, so let me take this response object as, arg1 dot set content type. So hope you people have remembered content type, right? So basically we use the text slash HTML. So I'm gonna give some data to the browser in the form of text slash HTML format. Okay, so now print some data to the browser. I'm gonna create print writer p equals to or pw any object instance name equals to response. I'm sorry here again, arg1. So this is actually response object arg1 dot get writer. So print writer is a kind of abstract class in stream class in IO part in Java. Okay, so now I'm calling that p dot print. Okay, so we have print and println as well, but I'm taking print. So here I'm going to write HTML code, HTML and body tag. Okay. So here I'm giving, I'm writing, I'm using HTML code inside Java code. Please observe, while learning JSP, you will must, be able to give the differences. Okay. Right. So now again, I'll take one more, println, print method. So p dot print, where I close, HTML and bodies. First is a body tag, and then it's a HTML tag. Okay. So now in the destroy, yes, of course, we can have a SOP statement. Actually, I have written that, right? SOP with a colon destroy. And for we have configuration solid config. One second. So here I have initialized one variable now for this config. Let me give that. And here you just return value. It's just in general. Okay. Salt interface. I just returned as the Servlet interface. That's it. Okay, so now let me try to deploy this. So every time the server gets restarted. So still it shows, it is showing 404 error. Why? Because of course, I have written whatever the steps I've written here, everything in, but I have not configured this in web.xml. So that is your deployment descriptor, which is there in a web folder. So let's open this. So I have to explain this page. Okay. So main reason main reason behind this 404 error, this this Servlet. First Servlet class is not configured inside this web.xml file. So we must, whenever we create a servlets, we must configure inside web.xml. Okay, so let me remove everything for now. Always this web.xml. Of course, it's an XML file. Basically, it starts with the XML, version, and root tag is web app, and it's a related, configured file. So you people no need of hatting, so you can get it from the XML file or any existing files. Okay, and we have display name tag. Okay, so this is just a page name, I mean application name here. If you want to replace by that application name, you can replace that as well. And now I'm gonna configure my first servlet. Okay, so this is my first servlet is a page or servlet class which I need to configure. So let's go to just you have to remember this, first servlet name. Now in the web.xml, right? So, call this servlet, not reference, sorry, servlet. So here in the servlet, let's, pass this servlet name. Okay. So we need to pass this servlet name. So here you can find here, and I just copied that name, so I'm pasting. I guess it's not copied. So let me type first servlet. Okay, and I have to pass one more. Okay, so that is servlet class. So what is class? Fully qualified class name. So that is package name along with a servlet name. So what is a package name? That is, let me copy from here. This one. I'll copy this. Control C, and I'll paste it. I'll paste here along with the servlet name. So what is that servlet name? First servlet. Okay, so this is a servlet configuration. And for this servlet configuration, we must pass the servlet mapping. Okay, whenever users send request, there should be a mapping. So how is mapping? Again, so we must pass, we must use a tag called servlet mapping. And here in servlet mapping, again, we have to pass servlet name. So what is the servlet name? At the name which we pass here and the one which we already passed. So those two must be same. Those two servlet names must be same. Okay. And now again, so here it's not servlet class, it's about URL pattern. Okay, so here URL pattern, we passed anything. Either you can use same name or you can replace that. Okay, so here I'm using slash. Instead of first servlet, I'm just giving first. Okay. So nothing I just give. So it can be anything here, use URL pattern, but for easy understandable purpose, you can use same name. So you can just copy and paste here, nothing else. So, but I'm placing with a first. Okay, so now I saved it. So let's go here and again try to deploy, and we'll check now. Again, it's restarting. Everything I passed. What else I missed? 1 second. Mm. Let me replace this first with a post servlet and once. First of all, let me try for, cleaning the project. And then I'll refresh this once, refresh. Okay, so it's done. Now let's go to, Servlet. And yes, run as run on server with nothing is responding. Fine. I will check. Let me check for generic servlet. Then I'll come back to this because I don't want to waste time. So let's create one activity for com dot generic servlet. So now I'm gonna create a simple servlet class. Generic activity. I'm just taking it as a generic activity. So when the class extends, actually by default it extended with HTTP servlet, but I just wanted to show you for generic servlet. Let's see. And yes, now we can override the methods which are there in the generic servlet. So let's click on this. And now, yes. So when I click add, implemented method, it is just provided the service method, right? So here either we can pass, we can pass, data to the browser or to the console. But I just wanted to show you, try for the console. It has to print, but why? So service card. I just, I'll just print that. So now actually I have to configure this in, web.xml. So let's go to web.xml. And now I'm gonna pass the configuration. So what is that configuration? Servlet, post the servlet. Okay, so then in the servlet class, so servlet class is different. Yes, it's correct actually. So again, generic activity. So first actually we have to pass servlet name. Okay, so what is the servlet name? That is generic activity. Fine. So now let's go to Servlet is done. Servlet mapping. Okay, so now take that Servlet mapping, and inside this mapping again we have to pass Servlet name. So I'll copy this generic, Control C, Control V, and URL pattern. So URL pattern as generic. Let's see. So I saved this, and actually I didn't override init and destroy method. It's only for the service method. So hope you guys can see this. Service is called. Now it needed, you can override init method, and also you can print data to the console. Okay, so now let me write init method. So it's actually overridden. I mean, it's overridden. So now I'm not going to pass anything. So what I'll do, I'll just print one statement to the console, because it didn't work with the Servlet interface now. So init method is called. Okay, so now again try to redeploy this. Yes, so you people can observe, right? Init method is called. First of all, first init method is printing its statements, and once again. Okay, right. So then the service method called. Okay, always initialization will be happen first, and then service method. So but even here service method can be called few more times, but now we don't have any usage of calling this service method. Okay, so we'll move ahead. So now the same generic servlet, we are trying to print data to the console. Okay, so I'm going to create one more class servlet. Servlet. So this is generic to, this is a package name. Why it's giving? Let me cancel it. Okay, generic to browser. Okay, so which means a generic servlet to browser, just trying to print some data. Okay, so here URL mapping is given. Now click on next, and here I don't want to select any method, and okay, so click on finish, and now yes, the file is generated. Now click on this generic. So I'm just replacing with a HTTP servlet, generic servlet. And now, right, so it says to add an implemented method. So we must implement the unimplemented method. So I'm changing this arg0 to request, and arg1 to response. Okay, and now let me define. Okay, so first I have to print some data to the browser. Uh, so I have to print some data to the browser. So what I have to do, I have to set that, I have to set what kind of, format I'm going to print to the browser. So what I have to do, I have to take that response dot, set content type. So basically using text slash HTML. And now, so I'm gonna print, use print writer class and p equals to response, because I'm going to print, so I'm going to, give some data in the form of response. So I'm using response object dot get writer. And, so here I'm going to use p dot print. So as I have taken there, it's a HTML code inside Java code. And also you can take, this method for each tag. Okay. So p dot print. So here, within double quotes, remember within double quotes, we have to take body tag and p dot print. So here in this print, let's take an example. H1 style equals to color colon. Let's try to give red. We'll check. Okay. And I'm closing H1. Okay. So why it is not changing? Basically, it is double quotes only. Let's see. Oh shit. It's it's gone. H1. Okay, let me close with H1. So what is it? Welcome to generic Servlet. Okay, so then I'm closing H1. Fine. And now I have to close this p dot print. So one is for body tag. And I can close it here, but I've taken, separate println for, HTML. So I'm taking one more. So print and here. So let me close HTML. Okay. So now let's try to deploy this. And also I'll try to print this in, center. Center. So I deployed and so why it is returning this, because I have not configured this in web.excel, deployment descriptor. So let's go to deployment descriptor. First of all, let me close all this, close this, and now web.xml. Actually, I just want to copy that package. That's fine. See, for multiple, servlets, we are we are providing configuration in single web.xml. Okay, so this is possible. And we can say configuration happens at single point. And now, so I had to pass servlet configuration. And here in the servlet, let's go to servlet class. So what is the class name here? Generic to browser. Generic to browser. So hope it's clear, it's correct. And now servlet. Oh, this is actually wrong. This is not a class. This is a name. So in the servlet class, package name, I'll copy this. So, and again dot this class name. Okay, so now this configuration is also done. Right. So now what happens? I have to pass solid mapping. Solid name and solid name. So here, copy paste. And now solid, it's not solid, sorry, URL pattern. URL pattern is a slash. I'm just giving it as again, if I give generic here, it will get, confused. So I'll try to give it same class name. Okay. So now let's go to this, program and try to deploy this. And now I guess we don't find, we don't get 404 error. Hope, it's visible. So you people please observe here, it will check whenever, user sends a request, whenever user sends a request, it's actually redirected, to web.xml. And depending on, the servlet name, that is suppose, generic servlet or generic to browser, it gets a, URL pattern. And based upon this URL pattern, it will get, it gets searches in a servlet configuration. So whether, that attached to servlet configuration is having same name as servlet name, here and this servlet name, if both are equal, control, the control is to this particular package class. So that is com.generic servlet.generic to browser, and it gets executed, which means, the respective service will be provided. So here, what is the service? Nothing. We're just trying to print some data to the browser. That's it. Hope it is clear. Any queries so far? No queries. Okay, so this is about, generic servlets, servlet and its implementation. Suppose, if you wanted to write along with the service, if you want to write data to the console, actually here, you can write. What I can write here. what I can write here, service, method is called. Fine. And also, let me check, let me show you, and then we'll try to add that init method. So you people have to observe browser as well as a console. There's console window. So hope you all can see service, service is called. And now in the same, browser, I mean, in this, generic servlet class, so we can implement init method as well. And as that, I'll implement this after your service method. Okay, after your service method. Please find the difference. So here in this init method is called. Okay. So again, I'm deploying this. So here, which method is called first? Again, init method is called first. So whenever Servlet get instantiated, init method called only once throughout the life cycle, and of course service method is called after this initialization. And along with this, if you want to implement destroy method, yes, you can do that as well. But observe the output statement. Destroy. As I said, so basically this won't be displayed to browser console, but still we have to check now, because before calling itself, if it will destroy, I guess so it's deleting this object. Servlet instances gets deleted, but whatever the message or SOP println statements we have written, that will not be displayed to the console. That is about your destroy method. So hope generic Servlet is clear. Generic Servlet along with this deployment descriptor. Always, always when user gets request, user sends request to the browser. So this generic Servlet, so first it will reach us to the URL pattern, allow Servlet name. So if the Servlet name and the Servlet mapping, so in Servlet, whatever the Servlet configuration we have, so Servlet mapping name and Servlet name, if both are equal, then the control reaches respective packages along with its classes, and then that particular service method gets executed. So this is how execution part will happen. Okay, so these configuration steps are very important. Always remember, we must pass two things in web.xml. Okay, web.xml or deployment descriptor. Okay, and here in this deployment descriptor, so what we have to pass, obviously root tag is web app, Okay, web app with its few more components, and there should be a closed one. So web app. So whenever we open, there should be a closed tag for that. So here again inside that, of course, we can have display name, uh, web file list, etc. But for now, we are not going to use it. But I'm using only this servlet. Okay, servlet and closed, one for servlet. And now inside that servlet, compulsorily we have to pass servlet name, and the name of the servlet is XYZ. Anything here, it can be XXX I'm using, and I have to close that, servlet name, and servlet class now. So assume that I'm just giving an example, like if it is a student, let me give an example. So if it is a student or employee or anything, okay, so here it will be like student name, and there should be a closed one. So here I'm passing student name as um of course, let me pass it as a Tarun. Okay, so here again student name is going to be close, and class. So assume that for class, I'll give you the address. Okay, student address. So here, obviously, we will pass, if it's a colleges or in a company. So compulsorily, we need to give proper address. Am I right? I'm just writing uh, full address. I'm writing here as a full address. And I'm closing that student, address. Um, okay, fine. So, and for the URL mapping, basically how, it maps. So either, student name or any specific, if any codes, related to the respective, fields they will use. Okay, but in our web application, so we are using it as an URL pattern. Okay, so my, Servlet configuration is done. So now I have to pass mapping, Servlet mapping, Servlet mapping. So this is very important actually. Servlet mapping, and again closed one. Okay, so here Servlet name, Servlet name. So here I should pass same name. What is the name? XXX I passed. And then the URL pattern. URL. So this pattern must be, anything. It can have same name of, your class, or you can have, here I forgot to add one more thing, Servlet class. Servlet class. So here package name dot class name. So what is the class name given above? It is XXX, right? So now we have to close that Servlet, Servlet class. Okay, so now come on here, URL pattern. So /. So / is basically used for URL pattern. Slash with, a small s. So again, URL pattern. Okay, so this is about your configuration or deployment descriptor. This is very important in case if you are going to learn any further frameworks in Java as well. Okay, so example is Spring or Spring Boot or Spring MVC. So this configuration will help you a lot. Any queries? Any queries, guys? Okay. Even for further classes, please go through the this servlets basics at least. If not servlet basics, at least go with the Java basics. It will help you people a lot. Fine then. So time is up. We will we'll wind up. If any queries, please drop a message in chat window so that I'll get back to you. Okay. Thank you all.